Every horror fan knows that the thrill of a good scare isn't just found in movies. Beyond the screen, some stories can truly send chills down your spine. In our search for terrifying tales, we found some spine-tingling short horror stories that are sure to give you an instant fear. So get ready, as we are going to share these twisted and creepy stories with you. Let's enter the dark world of short horror stories and prepare yourself for a sleepless night. Number 1. The Enfield Monster. In the quiet town of Enfield, Illinois, something strange and terrifying was hiding in the shadows. It was April 25th, 1973, when resident Henry McDaniel had an encounter that would forever haunt his memory. According to McDaniel, he was at home one evening when he heard a scratching sound at his front door. Curious but cautious, he opened the door to investigate, only to come face to face with a creature straight out of a nightmare. Describing the creature to reporters, McDaniel said it was unlike anything he'd ever seen. It had 3 legs, a short body, 2 small arms, and 2 large pink eyes that glowed like flashlights in the darkness. McDaniel noticed that the creature left behind strange footprints, prints that resembled those of a dog, but with 6 toes. Terrified and unsure of what to do, McDaniel reported the sighting to the police. When they arrived, they found scratches on the door screen and those odd footprints, just as McDaniel had described. Despite their efforts, the police were unable to identify the creature or explain what had happened that night. Number 2. The Suicide Hotel, situated high above the Tequendama Falls in Colombia, stands the Hotel del Salto, an imposing structure that has gained a reputation as one of the most haunted places on Earth. Built in 1923 by architect Carlos Arturo Tapias, the hotel was once a luxurious retreat for wealthy travelers seeking breathtaking views of the surrounding landscape. However, the hotel quickly became known for something far more interesting. Over the years, the Hotel del Salto earned the nickname Hotel of the Leap, as it became the site of numerous suicides. Guests who stayed at the hotel were often drawn to the edge of the cliffs, where they would take their own lives by leaping into the waters of the Tequendama Falls below. The tragic deaths became so frequent that the hotel was eventually abandoned, left to decay as a grim reminders of the lives lost. Number 3. The Villisca Axe Murder House. In the small town of Villisca, Iowa, stands a house that holds a scary secret. Known as the Villisca Axe Murder House, it was the site of one of the most brutal and mysterious unsolved murders in American history. On the night of June 9th, 1912, 8 people, 6 children, and 2 adults were savagely murdered in their sleep, their skulls crushed by the blows of an axe used by an unknown attacker. The crime shocked the nation, and despite an extensive investigation, the identity of the murderer was never discovered. The house, once a place of comfort and safety, became a symbol of horror and tragedy. For decades it sat abandoned, a silent witness to the terrible events that had unfolded within its walls. In 1994, the house was purchased by a local entrepreneur who restored it to its 1912 condition and opened it as a tourist attraction. The Villisca Axe Murder House quickly became a popular destination for ghost hunters and horror enthusiasts, eager to experience the spooky atmosphere and possibly encounter the spirits of the victims. Visitors to the house have reported strange occurrences, from cold spots and disembodied voices to the ghostly man holding an axe. But the haunting took a dark turn in November 2014, when a visitor named Robert Stephen Lawson Jr. experienced something that no one could explain. Lawson, who had traveled from Wisconsin to spend the night at the house with friends, was found with a wound on the chest by stabbing himself. His friends, horrified, called 911, and Lawson was rushed to the hospital. He survived the injury, but has never spoken publicly about what drove him to harm himself that night. Number 4. The Haunted Elsa Doll. Haunted dolls have long been a staple of horror, but one recent case has taken the phenomenon to a new level. It all began in Houston, Texas, when the Madonia family received a Disney Frozen Elsa doll as a Christmas gift in 2013. At first, the doll seemed perfectly normal, reciting phrases from the movie and singing "Let It Go" when a button on its necklace was pressed. But in 2015, things started to get strange. The doll began to switch between English and Spanish, seemingly at random, although there was no button to change the language. The family, puzzled but not overly concerned, continued to let their children play with the doll, but as time passed, the doll's behavior grew even more weird. It would start speaking and singing on its own, even when switched off, and the family never changed its batteries. By December 2019, the Madonias had had enough. They decided to throw the doll away, believing that it was simply malfunctioning. But just a few weeks later, the doll mysteriously reappeared inside a bench in their living room. The children swore they hadn't brought it back inside, and the parents knew they had disposed of it properly. Even more unsettling, the doll now only spoke in Spanish and no longer sang the familiar English version of "Let It Go." Determined to be rid of the doll for good, the family double-bagged it and placed it at the bottom of their garbage, which was collected the next day. They then left for a trip, hoping to put the strange events behind them. But when they returned, they were horrified to find the Elsa doll once again in their backyard. Frightened and unsure of what to do, the family decided to mail the doll to a friend in Minnesota. The friend taped the doll to the front bumper of his truck, and as of the last update from the family, the doll has not returned to Houston. Number 5. A deadly exorcism. Exorcisms are often associated with horror movies, but in August 2016, one real-life exorcism in North London ended in tragedy. Kennedy Ife, a 26-year-old man, began displaying increasingly bizarre and violent behavior after complaining of pain in his throat. His family, deeply religious, believed that he was possessed by a demon and took it upon themselves to perform an exorcism over 3 days. Kennedy was restrained to a bed with cable ties and subjected to intense prayer sessions as his family attempted to cure him. According to his brother, Colin Ife, Kennedy had become uncontrollable, biting his father and threatening to harm himself. It's clear that thing was in him, what we believed was a demon, because it was not natural, Colin later told police. Despite Kennedy's horrifying condition, the family did not seek medical help, believing that only religious intervention could save him. By the 3rd day, Kennedy was severely dehydrated and struggling to breathe. His brother finally called emergency services, but it was too late. Kennedy was pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m., leaving his family devastated and under investigation. Number 6. Dead animals in the walls. In 2015, the Bretsuis family from Auburn, Pennsylvania, decided to insulate their home. As they began the work, they made a horrifying discovery. Inside the walls were scores of dead animals, wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s and 40s, along with half-used spices and other strange items. The family sent the grim contents to an expert, who identified the ritual as powwow or Dutch magic, a type of folk magic practiced by the Pennsylvania Dutch. This ritual meant to treat ailments or offer protection, sometimes involved darker spells, including those intended to conjure demons. As unsettling as these stories are, They serve as a reminder that the real world can be just as terrifying as any fictional tale. Whether it's the dark forces that some believe exist beyond our understanding, or the eerie remnants of past rituals, these stories reveal a world where the line between the ordinary and the horrifying is dangerously thin.